Once upon a time by me. Once upon a time there was a boy that was born on a sunny day. That boy's name is Wilson. He was born with a special eye that helps him see his darkest fear. He has been afraid of it since he was 5 years old. Now he's 15. He found out about this monster and told his parents about it, and all they did was just laugh. He named this monster anxiety. This monster causes him to act up. It causes him to cry and harm himself. One night, while crying, he asked his mom, "What's wrong with me?" His mom just laughed and said, "You're fine. There's nothing wrong with you." Later that night, he starts acting up and he is screaming and crying. His mom and dad wake up and start running to his room to check on him. And when they arrived at his room, there his eye was activated and he is looking at the monster. His mom and dad take him to the hospital. While driving to the hospital, wouldn't stop screaming and crying and hitting his head on the seat. He couldn't stop because the anxiety monster was now attached to him, and it is not letting go of him. When they reach the hospital, they ask Dr. Carl what's wrong with their son. The doctor says that Wilson has anxiety. His parents start asking the doctor all these questions, and they start to believe that the doctor is lying. Before they left the hospital, Dr. Carl gave Wilson some medication and an address to a therapist. The mom gave Wilson the medicine, and Wilson slowly started to stop crying. One day, Wilson was at school and he forgot to take his medicine. Out of nowhere, his eye was activated, making him able to see the monster. He starts to hyperventilate and start crying. His classmates start making fun of him. They think that he is just messing around, and the teacher is yelling at him, telling him to stop. 20 minutes later, they stop laughing and they start to worry. Wilson then starts banging his head on the desk, and the teacher grabs him and takes him to the nurse's office. And the nurse makes him take his medicine. 7 months later, Wilson is on top of a building while everyone is celebrating Wilson's 16th birthday and having fun playing games. Wilson hears a voice. It was the voice of a monster that has been making him suffer for 16 years. Anxiety tells Wilson, "Jump, Wilson. I know you want to jump." Wilson has been dealing with this for 16 years, and he is sick and tired of it. He is not getting the medical attention that he needs, and he is tired of everyone making fun of him and being afraid of him. He just wants to live a normal life. He just wants to be a regular kid, so he jumps. Everybody sees his air through the window. His mom starts screaming, and his dad is hugging his mom. And now they realize that what he has been feeling and how much pain he has been through. They now realize that they should they should not have let things get this bad before taking it seriously. For the past 3 days, his mom and dad have been mourning, and his mom crying every night. Little did they know there was something protecting him. His guardian angel gave his life to Wilson just so he can live a new life and a better one. He went back to his home and oh, it cut. Hold on.
You okay, Richie?
Yeah, sorry. It cut off just like the end.
Yeah, no
So
worries.
yeah, okay.
Great story.
Let's start from here. He went back to his home and his parents saw him and they started crying and saying sorry to him for not taking him seriously. The end.
Give it up for Richie. That was a very a powerful story. Like, give it up for him in the chat. I'm gonna have Francis to take us away into a Q&A portion. So today we're gonna do a Q&A portion and like talk a little bit with Richie about about his powerful story and everything else in between. Francis? Francis, you here?
She might be on that call, she said.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So I will. So Frances is gonna away at a call at the moment. She's really busy. But we're gonna open it up to discussion, a small community discussion talking about anxiety for a little bit before we get into talking with Sharisa. So if y'all have any questions or comments to start us off, go ahead and um, unmute yourself. You can even um, show us your face, or you can just drop it off in the chat. Um,
Richie, hey man, I want to say that was a good story. I think what's so interesting about your story is that no one ever considers how anxiety really can affect a relationship, and even with others and within yourself, you know. And just when you shared your story, you sound nervous, and there was a dog barking in the back. That's cool and all, man. Don't worry, I was reading. You know, we gotta learn how to close read, anyways. You know, but I just want to say that yeah, anxiety is big, you know, and I think in that story there's always that sense, especially when it comes from parents, right? We, like, parents don't see this sometimes, especially because in their time they never had like the, you know, that the help, right? Maybe they didn't have the money, they didn't understand psychology or seeing a therapist, and how important it is to be vulnerable, to be open, to see all these things, right? But your story really it really it definitely touched me, you know. And I think it's important that um we don't make anxiety to be something very shameful, and instead there's a way of treating it. So thanks again, Richie, and good job, man. That was awesome.
Thank you very much.
it is a very powerful story. Richie, is it all right if I can ask you what made you want to write anxiety as, you know, a monster? Like it has a lot of fantasy elements about it.
I kind of got it from like TV, like shows on like Netflix, like ideas from it, and then I got some ideas from my sister as well. So yeah.
You know, schizophrenia is the big word in mental health diagnosis, but it all starts with things like that anxiety, which we sometimes dismiss as, oh, just a little nervous. But this only highlights the fact that you know, the little things that we see from our friends or from our family members that we think is just oh, you cannot deal with this, you better get out of it, and things like that. If we really pay attention, those are the very initial symptoms of a bigger problem. And if we don't take care of it at the very beginning, it can escalate into a bigger problem. And that's, I think that's the story, that's the message of this story by Richie, that there is a need, there is really a great need for understanding symptoms, mental illness in the whole, and that caring for other people. That even though we think, oh, we are not experts, we are not clinicians, we are not doctors, but when you see something odd or something different about somebody, speak up. And that is where events like this, telling our stories, which is very important, sharing what we know and learning more about mental health is a very you know, critical thing. And so that's why we have these types of events. And I hope that from Rich's story, you can, I mean, you will have the feeling that we really need to learn and then reach out and know when or where to reach out. So thank you, Richie. That was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
it's really
Any
cool.
other reaction?
Yeah, any other reactions? Actually, I have a question for Richie. Um, what do you think parents should know? Oh, look at that. We got, well, I'm going to read Skolson's comment first. Is that he really likes the story. It also made him think about his own anxiety as well. He comes from a family where mental illness is a taboo. So I often think to myself that I'm probably just weird and neglect my own health. So I guess this ties into my question and Wilson's comment of like, to you, Richie, like, what do you wish parents and family should know when it comes to, you know, talking about anxiety?
I just like want them to like understand and how like understand how the person with anxiety feels and like what like the pain that they're going through.
Miko, I want to add, so as a mental health professional, I know that it takes a lot of courage to be able to share one story and share your experience. And so I think that for anyone who's experiencing any of these symptoms is to find somebody that you trust and they've earned your trust to be able to share that story and somehow, not to keep it to yourself and to be able to, again, kind of talk about it with someone else and be able to maybe problem solve with that other person, practice with that person and how you might be able to share it with your family members, but definitely be able to find that courage. I know it takes a lot of courage to be able to, especially since there is stigma around having, kind of what was said in the chat, worrying that people might think you're weird or you're just, and so these are all that self-talk that we have in our head about what those signs are. But as Tita Mila was saying earlier, is that being able to share it with other people and being able to then get the help that you need earlier on is really the key to being able to address these symptoms that often can be managed in a lot of different ways. So, it's not always, it could be medication for some people, but it could just be being in a group or just talking to somebody who can understand and help you manage the symptoms. So there's a couple of different ways to do that. And so, and that's why, again, what she was saying, we're looking at different ways to outreach to people to learn about those different ways to manage some of these symptoms, but also the resources available for you.
Thank you so much, Tita Ernalyn. She's a doctor. But anxiety is incredibly a very vulnerable thing. Um, so like kudos to Richie for like, even though it is a story of has very fictional elements into the story, but there's so many parts of that story that's incredibly real. And but in real in a sense that I felt a lot of vulnerability of being able to just like tell family about like, yo, my mind isn't perfect where it is. So it's like, can anyone like relate to that, or does anyone else want to speak and comment and share their reaction to the story, to Richie's story too as well, and how that touched them? Oh, Tita Mila, you're muted.
It seems to me like the anxiety monster here is like, there are times when you feel like, do I hear voices, or did I just see something pass through my window? I When I was young, I would experience that, and I thought, oh dear, did I see the devil just now? you know, Somebody speaking behind my back, because I watched those cartoons where you have the good and the evil on both your shoulders. trying to tell you what to do. When some of these mental images in our that we experience, especially if you believe in ghosts or something like that, you would have some of those experiences. But in mental health, I believe, Dr. Navarro, correct me if I'm wrong, that when you are suffering something like that, for you it is real, like there was somebody behind you telling you what to do, or somebody from afar is just motioning you to do something that you normally would not do in your in your proper mind. But like I said, sometimes people find a way to try to comfort themselves, and they make up a secret friend or an invisible friend, and then it becomes real to them because that is where they find someone to like communicate with, especially children who are left alone, or those who are living by themselves, or just have a personality that is just so introvert that when they come to a problem, they build a wall between them and reality. And so it is very important, really, that we communicate with each other. And I just put on the chat that if you will attend our December workshop, that we have lots of resources that we can share with others, where they can speak, where they can call and make a call and speak to someone, to a professional, or at least just having somebody to hear what you are going through. So that's why we advocate for a lot of these educational events like this Ugnayan. And it's also a forum for us to share our experiences or our ideas on how best to help one another, because we have different experiences and different situations sometimes, especially with Filipinos. We don't want to talk about mental health. Like Nico said, it is a taboo. And even now, especially with the young people who thinks, oh, their parents do not understand, they are not into social media, so they don't know about these things, or they are so deep into culture that nobody talks about dirty laundry, things like that. But it is important to communicate. And so we encourage people to understand what mental illness is, so that there is no stigma in talking to someone. I'll tell you my own experience. For 23 years, at 23 years, I was married to someone who did not want me to make friends with anybody, because something in his mind that he's jealous of everyone, of my friends, even friends in church. And it was difficult to speak to somebody. But so I ended up trying to, and there was no internet, no social media in my house, so we don't have a computer. We only have a TV and the phone. I could not answer the phone. It was my husband who would always answer the phone, even if I'm very close to it. That's how difficult it was. I cannot communicate with anybody. And if I did not have, thank God for the natural resilience of Filipinos, we keep it to ourselves. But when I realized that I was going through something, depression, something like that, and I said, oh no, I can't let this happen to me. And so I encourage people to talk to somebody, find someone that you can uh, talk to, even if even if you don't tell them what your problem is. Simply having somebody to call, somebody that you can reach out to, and with the resources we have, even strangers, you don't see their faces, but you can call them and talk to them about what's bothering you, or what you want, something that is maybe you think you need help for, or for somebody else that you think needs help. So communication is very important, openness, and like I said, be bold, like Dr. Navarro has presented last time. what does bold means. You know, you have to really focus on yourselves as well. So when I think about that story by Richie, it really has far-reaching consequences. So, and it has a lot of topics that are associated with it, and but it bounds down to understanding and reaching out for help. So that is what our I think the lesson for us is that we need to be aware and be alert and be bold to reach out. So anybody else? I'm sorry, I talked too much.
No, Mila, that's okay. I think you sharing your story was really insightful. Seriously, it was.
What Larry said. You can take a couple more responses.
Hey
I'm
y'all.
gonna transition it away.
Good.
What's up, Paula? What you got?
So I would say I feel like I would bleh. Oh my gosh, I'm having tongue twisters. So I feel like I could personally relate with Richie's story, especially when he referred to anxiety as a monster. You know, um, I feel like something that I've learned um, through therapy actually, and through my partner, is that looking at not just only anxiety but your mental health as a whole. you know you can look at it as like a dragon in your mind, and that the only person that can really slay that dragon in your mind is you. But you can't, at the same time, it's we know that this is something that we can't do on our own, and that's why it's so important to, as Tita Mila, I would reiterate from her, is to be bold and to reach out to your loved ones for their emotional support, so that it gives you the motivation and willpower on your own to slay that dragon in your mind. And so in this sense of anxiety, and as someone as myself who has struggled with anxiety in the past, and every occasionally, um, I would say that having that emotional support from your close circle in your life, whether that is family or friends or a mixture of the two, I think that all makes a huge difference. And so, yeah, I I really really appreciate your story, Richie, and it definitely touched me as well. And so, yeah, that's it to me, to what I have to share.
Amazing, y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing how you relate to story of anxiety, written by our very own Richie. Go ahead, let's get some woos in the chat. Give some thank yous to Richie, give some praises to him. He was incredibly nervous. He told us before we started, and I think it will mean a really lot to him about how he's doing. You can even unmute yourself, and if you want to give like those physical woos. And thank you to all of you for sharing. We're gonna move it on, and I'm gonna introduce to you our next presenter, Miss Sharisa Magnanello. She will be presenting about holiday resiliency and how everything about and how we can do better when it comes to somebody with anxiety around holidays times. Everyone give a big hello to Sharisa. Hey, how you doing, girl?
Hi. Thanks everyone for having me. And thank you, Richie, for such a vulnerable and inspiring story to kind of create this safe environment for all of us to talk about it, and just know that we can all count on each other to just kind of be there for each other. So let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So kind of going off of Richie's story, I'm going to talk about resilience as a whole and kind of how we can just deal or better manage our stress, especially during the holidays, whether it be because of the holiday stress or be because we can't spend the holidays with our loved ones the way we would like to. So moving on to the first one. Okay, so resilience, this is a definition of resilience by Elaine Miller-Karish. He's one of the co-founders of CRIM, or the Community Resilience Model. And the way that she defines resilience is both an individual's and community's ability to use both all of our collective strengths in a way that we can live in the present moment, and not just living in the present moment, but thriving while kind of going about our daily activities. So that means that it's not all on us to worry about our anxiety or managing or resilience and all those stuff, that we are one, as human beings, we are one huge community, and we need to rely on others to kind of help each other and ourselves. All right. Secondly, this is a really good point of CRIM, which is why I really enjoy it. It really talks about how the biology of our nervous system. So what I mean by that is that for many of us, especially as Filipino Americans, but as mental health as a whole, a lot of times when we come across mental health issues, what people will tell us is that it's because we have mental issues, that there's some sort of mental weakness in us or something. But CRIM doesn't focus on that. It focuses that it is our own body, our own human nervous system that is trying to protect us, which is why we develop these ways to kind of cope and move forward. All of these mental health issues are common reactions to any sort of stress or traumatic event. So whether it be a little stressor or a big stressor, and our body just tries to protect us. And CRIM really helps us to learn to read our own nervous system to kind of bring us back into our own, we all have like a sort of an okay zone, which I'll get to later on. And this okay zone or resilient zone, it can be expanded and developed more through the use of basic skills that everyone can use throughout their day, both for themselves and for the people around them. Okay, so these are just some common reactions to holiday stress and kind of how our body reacts to it. Some things we may not even think about. So for our nervous system, I mean, we might be always super stressed. You know, we feel like we want to decorate or get gifts, or just trying to manage more family and friends in our life. On that note, we can go into like our musculoskeletal system, which is, you know, with all of that pent up stress and anxiety, we might not realize that we're physically holding that tension in our body right now. In regards to our breathing, you know, it could either increase or decrease. I know for me, sometimes if I'm really stressed out, I kind of don't take a deep breath and I don't allow my body to take that pause in between things. And everything from our endocrine, our heart system, our GI system, these all what I'm trying to get at with this slide is that stress and anxiety affect us on a complete level, not just our mind, not just what we're consciously aware of, but all these things that actually affect us physiologically at the same time. All right, so this slide kind of visualizes the okay zone or the resilient zone. And this middle part here, where these blue dash lines, that is our resilient zone. And we're born with we're born with a set amount of resilient zone. And the goal of CRIM is to kind of expand that. So one of the stressors that we have right now is just, like I said, the holiday stress, the anxiety, the dealing with COVID, a pandemic on top of everything, everybody getting shut down again, all of these different stressors in our life on us constantly can bump us out of our okay zone or resilient zone. And when we get bumped out of that zone, we can get either stuck high or we can get stuck low. So being stuck in the high zone, I like to think of that as overfunctioning. So you're really anxious, you might have some outbursts, you're more irritable, you're edgy. When you're bumped out of that, if you stay there, you won't be able to think as clearly. But on the flip side, if you're stuck in the low zone, that's sort of the underfunctioning, where even if we have anxiety, we kind of withdraw into ourselves, that we kind of are always having that exhaustion, fatigue. We kind of feel numb to it, like we can't move forward with things because we're so withdrawn, because we can't function from all the other stressors in our life. Okay, so going into the CRIM scales, there's 3 main ones, but I do want to introduce all of them. So there are 6 main scales of the community resiliency model. And you'll see in the middle in the red, they're all connected. Well, first of all 6 of them are connected to each other, but they all stem from tracking. So today I'll kind of be going over tracking, the red, the green, and kind of the teal, the resourcing and grounding, because these are the three main ones that kind of help solidify a foundation for what the CRIM model is. Okay, and then learning about CRIM, this is just an in-between slide, and it kind of talks about how CRIM is a choice. So learning about this, first of all, thank you for attending, because working with CRIM and learning about it is a choice. We're not, like, this is not something we want to force, not something that we're telling you to do, but it is something that we feel that we want to share with everyone because it is very beneficial. And then many reactions to stress and trauma, they can't always be talked away. So I know a lot of times when we think of mental health and therapy and things, it's kind of that talk therapy that generates, oh, I'm going to go talk to a therapist and everything, and that's absolutely helpful. But some CRIM really helps with the biological part of kind of bridging those two bridging the gap between our nervous system and like kind of the cognitive mind part of it with our own physiological system. And people learn using CRIM that these physical and mental symptoms are actually because of our own biology, like I said, our own nervous systems, and they are not because of mental weakness. So talking about like Richie's story and everything, that with mental health being such a stigma for everyone, it's not because there is something wrong with you. It's just your body is trying to cope with all the other stressors around in your life right now, that those symptoms are manifesting as anxiety or other things like that. And once we learn how to recognize those symptoms in our body, those stressors, using CRIM skills can really result in a physical and mental sense of relief to promote a better sense of well-being. So the first skill I want to talk about is tracking. And many of you all might be doing this already, but it kind of helps to really understand what we're doing. And tracking is just basically noticing or paying attention what's happening to your body at the present moment. So what's happening, not just your thoughts, but physically what's going on in your body. Like, do you feel tense? Are you not breathing? Is your heart racing? Or is it the opposite? Are you numb? Are you always getting super distracted? Are you not able to thrive in your relationships and your interactions? So just some questions to curiosity questions to discuss. Feel free to talk about them, or like unmute yourself from the chat, or put it in the chat. And like, what do you notice on this inside right now? Like, do you feel nice and calm? Is there a lot of different kind of external factors behind you on camera that we are not aware of? Is there a lot of noise? Are there a lot of people there? And when you notice those sensations, during CRIM, we like to talk about, are those sensations pleasant? Are they unpleasant or neutral? And it really helps just labeling those sensations, whether it be your heart racing or what, if your mind's clear, if it's not. That's tracking. And that's, like I said, one of the foundational skills of CRIM. So let me see right here. The second main skill is resourcing. And resourcing is kind of what people like to think about as one of their happy places or things like that. And it's any person, place, thing, memory, any part of yourself that makes you feel calm or strong, resilient, pleasant, or peaceful. So that's why a lot of people like thinking of happy places. The good thing about a resource is it can be real or imagined. It could be internal or external. So it can be something, like a memory that you call from in yourself to draw strength from. It can be a pet. It could be a loved one. It could be a happy place in your mind that you create from all different other happy places that you've created externally and things like that. So the thing with tracking and resourcing is that once you realize that maybe that I've tracked internally and I am anxious or something like that, I can call on a resource. So I can go through my resource inventory and be like, hey, I can kind of see what works for me to kind of bring me back into the okay zone at the moment. Okay, so this is kind of talking about another way of resourcing. Since it is the holidays, I know many people may enjoy Christmas movies or holiday movies. So for some people, for some of you, it may not be a resource. But since it is a common theme right now, does anyone have any favorite holiday movies or Christmas movies that you'd like to share with anyone that we might be able to use as resources? Okay. Okay. Home Alone. Yes, Ellen, definitely Home Alone. Great. Yeah. Alf is very popular with people. I love it. Some people love it or hate it, but I absolutely love it. So that is something. Thank you, Francis. Frozen 2. Frozen 2 counts. There's snow. I agree. Sienta. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so during with whether you are swamped with cooking or baking or just dealing with family, um, maybe putting on a happy movie, whether it be a holiday movie or just something that brings you joy or calmness or strength, is a way to resource when you realize that you are getting stressed. That could be, for some people right now, it could be Christmas music. For other people, that might not be a resource, that they say it only happens after Thanksgiving or December 1st is when you're only allowed to do Christmas music. So it just depends on what resource works for you. Let's see. Okay, so this, I think we'll provide a copy of this PowerPoint for everyone, but this kind of links off to 43 ways to make the best of the holiday season right now, especially during COVID, and especially since we're all on tight budget and everything, but I just wanted to include that in the slide, or yeah, in the slide set. And lastly, so the third main CRIM skill is grounding. In grounding, many of us kind of associate this with the mindfulness concept, kind of popular in yoga and that kind of thing, where it's literally the direct contact of the body or a part of our body with something that provides, excuse me, support in the present moment. And the reason grounding is so important in CRIM and for us and our biological systems and everything is that this gravitational security is literally the foundation where we build our relationships. And if we do not feel safe or grounded to the earth, then all of our other relationships around us will not develop optimally. So with tracking, resourcing, and grounding, we can have a better sense of ourselves, and thus when we have a better sense of ourselves and where we are in our K zone and where our biology is and how we're functioning, we can create better relationships and a better space with the people around us, whether it be, I mean, usually it's our family right now because those are the people we live with. But grounding is really important because it reinforces the tracking and the resourcing to make sure that we stay present in the current moment, that we're not worried about something that happened 5 minutes ago or 5 hours ago. We're not worried about the future worries, you know, whether or not we're going to get food on the table or if we're the next time we're going to be able to see our parents or things like that. So grounding is really important. I think we have an exercise next. So this is something you can do. Feel free to put yourself on camera or not. And this is a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique for anxiety. And I think it really goes well with Richie's story, where you can kind of use this grounding exercise to reduce any stress or anxiety currently, like in any present moment. And this is really helpful. I do it many times because it's something that not many, like you can do internally and not many people will notice. And it really helps for you to tie together your tracking and kind of resourcing around you without having to think about many things. So what I like to do is if you feel like you're getting stressed out or you feel like you're anxious, whether or not you're in your okay zone or not, just like look around you, whether you're in like a cubicle or you're in the car or outside, and just go down the list 5 to 1 in descending order. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, whether that be a blanket, a sweatshirt you're wearing, your hair, a pen, that kind of thing. 3 things you can hear. For this can also be when you're doing this grounding exercise, try focusing on things that or sensations that are more pleasant or neutral, not so much unpleasant, because sometimes you can be in a very volatile environment and it may be difficult to do this, but if you learn to track the more positive sensations, it's a lot better. For example, the 3 things you can hear. If you're in a family situation or friend situation or any environment where there's a lot of negative energy going on, it can be difficult to hear past the yelling or other things like that, but maybe listen to the sound of your own breathing or focus on if you're rubbing the fabric on your jeans or something like that. 2 things you can smell, whether or not be neutral if you have some nice candles going on right now. 1 thing you can taste is kind of going on to the next slide where we do other, it's called help now skills. A lot of people, myself included, like taking a sip of water for a sip of a beverage and kind of feeling that sensation of the beverage going down your throat. And it helps you focus and ground into the moment. So if you're drinking water, feeling that cool liquid go down your throat, or taking a sip of coffee or a hot chocolate or whatever you prefer, and really just focusing on the physical sensations that all of these skills do can really help ground you to the present moment and not focus on the unpleasant stress or anxiety in the environment that you're in at the moment. Okay, so going on what I was saying earlier, so help now skills or reset now, these are kind of tied into everything else, and it's just another CRIM skill. And these are, if you look through them, there's 1 through 10, and these are just common help now activities, and they're just basic strategies that kind of help you ground and track to get you back into your resilient zone. So if you realize that you're hyped up, you're anxious, you're all jittery, stuff like that, you're on your high zone and you want to just get back into it, you can still be anxious in your resilient or okay zone. But these skills kind of help you bring back into that where you can kind of think through things better. Or if you're becoming super numb, or you're tired, or just checking out or everything, one of these skills can help you bring yourself out of that so you can kind of move forward. So a lot of people like walking, that movement, especially right now, walking and walking outside, kind of feeling the sun on their skin and everything. With us being cooped inside with the same people all the time can be really stressful. The one thing I want to say about this is you aren't fixed to these 10 skills. You can create your own help now activities or skills. These are just common things that work for many people. Like I was saying earlier, when you're doing the 5 through 1 grounding, drinking a beverage, you can do many of these simultaneously or one after another. I know kids like doing a lot of the walking and the pushing against the wall, just because if you are focusing on a physical sensation, it allows you to kind of reset your system and kind of balance out where you're going. Number 3, the looking for colors and shapes, is kind of also paying attention to what's around you, whether that be you're counting certain things, you're focusing on things that are just blue, listening for pleasant sensations, not unpleasant ones. And like I said, all of these can be used one at a time whenever you need to. If you have any suggestions on any reset now or help now skills that you already do for yourself, please feel free to share them in the chat, because I would love to hear about them and see what works for you, because all of these might work for you. Many of them might not. So the thing is finding a skill that helps you get back into your okay zone. Okay. Let's see. So this is a group activity, and for wherever you are and whatever you're doing right now, I would just like you to kind of pick one of these reset now skills to do, and just notice the sensations that go on internally when you do them. So whether it be you take a sip of water, or if you're noticing the temperature in the room right now, are you warm? Are you comfortable? Are you cold? Are you hot? And are those sensations pleasant for you? Are they unpleasant? Are you uncomfortable? There's too much stimulation for you right now? So I'll just take the next minute or so. Feel free to share what you did, whether it be in the chat or if you just want to unmute yourself. But I kind of want to use this just as a pause for everyone to kind of work on one of these help now skills that you can use when you do feel yourself getting stressful or anxious, not just during the holiday season, but as we go into lockdown again, basically. So. So for me, one of the things I was doing is, my dog's on the bed right now and she's snoring, and it should be unpleasant, but it's not, because I know that she's right there. She's kind of twitching in her sleep. So, I mean, my dog is a resource for me. So it's a very pleasant sensation that I feel seeing her, hearing her. It is very cold in the house right now because it's cold outside, but it's pleasant because I have a blanket on my legs and everything. And that kind of helps me do a nice little pause here for the reset or help now skills, since I'm presenting right now. So that's kind of the process of everything. All right, if nobody wants to. Oh yeah, it does look like a nice jacket. So Tita Mila's looking out the window and focusing on the trees and the leaves. That's nice. Thank you everyone for sharing. Okay, let me see what we have next. So the next crim skill I wanted to touch upon for you all to use is gesturing and spontaneous movements. And so gesturing or movement is just basically anything that we do. I know a lot of people, like sometimes I talk with my hands a lot, many of us do too, and it basically expresses or emphasizes a certain feeling, sentiment, attitude, idea. You know, if you're happy, a lot of like people will clap or throw their arms up. When you feel powerful, when you don't feel powerful. So these movements and gestures, the thing we wanted to talk about with crim is they aren't conscious, that they're below our awareness. And they don't they don't cause any self-injury or self-harm. They're used to, like I said, emphasize a certain feeling or an idea. And part of this gesturing and spontaneous movements is, the reason we bring this up with the crim is that we can use them as self-soothing. So for many people, whether it be like rubbing their hands on their legs or something, a lot of people who wear jewelry on their hands or who are married, they might play with their rings. That's a very common one I've seen across the board on many cultures. A lot of people you might see, they tap their pens. Some people with long hair, they might play with their hair or kind of just like pat it down. And the thing with these gestures and spontaneous movements is, since they are unconscious, it is part of our own. Remember when I was talking about with crim that it is our body, when we express these anxious symptoms or stressful things, it's our body kind of self-regulating itself to kind of bring us back into the okay zone. And these gestures are part of it, that we are subconsciously doing, that we're tapping our, whether it be to focus or because we're anxious. A lot of people doodle. Many people thought that was because they weren't paying attention, but it kind of doodling allows people to focus on the current situation. And just kind of encouraging, Karim really wants to encourage you to track these self-soothing gestures, because when you realize like, oh, well, why am I tapping my pen right now? Why am I playing with my ring? Is it because I'm anxious? Is it because I'm bored? Am I in my okay zone? And where do those sensations sit when you're doing your gestures? All right, so another little activity. So I just wanted to do, take just a few seconds, not that long, and think about a self-soothing gesture you might have. And just once you're thinking about that, if you do have one, please feel free to do it on video or share it in a chat. And what you notice you usually are feeling or sensing in your body when you do that gesture. So for me, I like playing with, I do play with my wedding ring sometimes. Usually I do that when I'm a little anxious or nervous, or sometimes I even do it when I'm bored and I'm just trying to focus on whatever's going on right now. I know I can be someone to tap their feet or legs sometimes. I also tap my pens, and I kind of like always hearing some sort of, I like moving a lot, and that allows me to really focus on it. So do you have any self-soothing gestures? And if they're not self-soothing, is there something that are there gestures that make you feel confident, that make you feel happy? Is there anything else you do? And by gestures, it doesn't just have to be with your hands or your feet. Like, is there a position you get in? I know in the past couple of years, a lot of people, it's been going around kind of like that power position, kind of like that superhero pose, like before you have to like go into an interview or a presentation and kind of like get yourself in the mindset to be confident and powerful and like, hey, you basically got it. Like, and as much sometimes as cheesy as it sounds, it really helps if you kind of align your body with your mindset, because what you pay attention to kind of grows. So if you act like you're feeling powerful, then you will feel powerful and confident and things like that. So I feel like it's a very underrated concept, because like I said, it is something that is subconscious. We don't think about it a lot of the time, and tracking that can really help us. Let me see something in the chat. Okay, Dr. Navarro says that she likes massaging her fingers and palms of her hands. And then Tita Mila says she puts her hands on her lap or one hand under my chin. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing those, because I think I do those too, and I don't realize it until someone else brings it up, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I do that too. Agnes says she cracks her knuckles. And then Ellen will fiddle through their fingers, put my hand over my chest. Oh, that's really good, Ellen. Putting your hand over your chest to regulate heartbeat. You don't always have to have like a watch or Fitbit to tell us, like, to really be in sync with that. That's really good. So thank you for sharing all of that, everyone. So main thing I want to take away from gesturing is that when you are feeling stressful or anxious, please remember your self-soothing gesture. And even if you aren't aware of it, or you are, as you're doing that gesture, pay attention to your nervous system and track that sensation. So obviously, if you're doing that gesture, is it a pleasant sensation? Is it unpleasant? Or is it neutral? Is it just something to keep you busy, to keep you on the same wavelength that you're going at? And just really pay attention to whether or not your nervous system or you are in your okay zone. And that's basically the part of all these skills. That's a goal, is to kind of bring yourself back into the resilient zone, expand it, and maintain yourself there. Let's see anything here. Okay, so one of the last ones kind of goes with the help now skills. It's called shift and stay. And it goes with the help now skills we were talking about earlier, but also tracking. And it simply means shifting your attention from unpleasant sensations to more neutral or pleasant ones. So if you feel like you are getting more stressed out or anxious or things like that, and you sense that, you become consciously aware of it. And you realize that you are doing some self-soothing gestures or things like that. Maybe using a help now skill, whether it be going for a walk, taking a drink of water, maybe talking with a friend, doing an action to kind of help you shift towards a more neutral, pleasant sensation. So for just the gestures we're talking about, for cracking your knuckles or massaging your palms, kind of focusing on that sensation on your body. Do your palms feel warm? Are they cold? Is that sensation pleasant on your skin? Is it unpleasant? And kind of just focusing on that. So as you've been hearing me talk, all of these skills are, like I said, they're all interconnected, they're all intertwined, because they all rely on each other to self-regulate our nervous system. So the shift and stay, the current one that we're on, it's using the tracking, the resourcing, the grounding, the help now, because we're literally using a skill to become aware of the sensations and shifting our attention to something that is more pleasant or neutral, so we can come back into our resilient zone, instead of just becoming like a shipwreck on the beach with like storm and lightning and everything falling down all at once. Like, kind of shifting to, well, maybe there is a more pleasant or neutral sensation we can focus on. Okay, so this is just kind of wrapping everything up. Well, I guess what I was saying is that we can use any or all of these CRIM skills to follow the sensations in our body. We can shift to anything, like I said, to a resource, the soothing gestures, the grounding, and the main part of that is using these skills just to track ourselves and self-regulate, but also learning to shift our attention to something that is more positive and neutral. So these are just this is towards the end of the presentation, everything, just some tips for coping with the holidays. I'll let you read some of it, but really it's just choose what you want to do. Like we've been emphasizing this whole time, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to focus on you before you can focus on others. Like, if we are not able to come as the best versions of ourselves, we cannot help others. We cannot be there for others if we don't give ourselves the same grace and same attention that we give to everyone else. So also take a break, whether it be a 2-second break, a 5-minute break, or a 15-minute break. Using CRIM and everything, like, try to not sweat on the small stuff, focus on what you can control in the present moment and what things you can do to kind of bring yourself back in the resilient zone right now. And the last one I wanted to point out here was really something that I feel like many of us might not do right now, is it's okay not to feel thankful or grateful for where you are right now. A lot of us feel like we're drowning in many of the things that have been going on this year, and just to kind of acknowledge it and be okay with it. It's okay to not be 100% holiday Christmas spirit all the time and everything, but just kind of be aware of where you are and accepting it and realizing that this is where you are currently and what are you going to do to move forward, kind of thing. I believe that's pretty much the end of everything. So I will hand it back to Nico, and then we'll go from there.
Question, but I do like the idea that Sharissa mentioned about how being the best version of yourself. I think that is key, and I think every day we should be doing that for ourselves, for the betterment of ourselves. Yes, thank you, Sharissa.
Thanks, Larry.
Feel free to put your question in the chat also if you have other questions. Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I never. Excuse you, Schoolson. My bad.
Yes, that's a good thing about Crim, why we like sharing it. Just because a lot of us, we do many of these things second nature, because it is our body trying to protect ourselves. I like saying self-regulate, but literally at the heart of it, it's our body kind of knows what we need before we even need it, kind of thing. And a lot of that is just kind of that self-preservation. So I'm glad that whatever I was sharing with Crim was kind of able to open your eyes to, hey, these are the things that I already do to kind of bring myself into my okay zone or resilient zone, because we as humans, we all do have our own resilience. And that's what Crim points out is we have that resilience. How do we hone it and how do we share that with others?
Anything else anybody want to point out or share?
Sharissa, is resilience one of your thesis projects?
Yeah, so I'm actually using Crim in my doctoral project. I'll be teaching it to hopefully a bunch of different nursing groups and see how I can help promote better well-being and focus on the things that we already do to promote our own resilience.
How relevant do you think, or how needed do you think now that we're going through like COVID-19? Did you make up like this resilience piece during COVID or way before that?
No, I wish. So the Trauma Resource Institute, which is what created and founded CRIM right now, we're actually trying to get a lot more evidence-based research, which is why I'm kind of doing it, because I want to add to the numbers of everything. I know resilience has been increasing for a lot of organizations and groups lately, especially because of COVID. Unfortunately, I was not the first to think of it for this, but I am very thankful to be a part to kind of spread CRIM and just introduce it to the world, because like if anyone has been to any of our other CRIM stuff, like it is very applicable across the world, for all ages, so kids can learn it and understand it up to older adults. And I feel like it is something that's very beneficial for everyone, because it focuses on our strengths, not because of any weaknesses, and that it really focuses on the community, that we, like I was saying earlier, that we use these skills to become the best version of ourselves so we can create a better community for everyone, because we all need each other. We just can't.
That's beautiful. Where can we all follow you? What can we follow you on? By the way, I do my Twitter followings.
Nothing yet, but I'm sure if you talk to Dr. Navarro, wherever she is, I will be tagging along. So
She's my partner in crime in trying to spread CRIM into the community. So, right. Since we're both in healthcare, so I mean, Sharisa being a nurse and I'm a social worker in hospital setting. So it's something that we're both passionate about, and we met in our teacher training, certification training program. So thank you, Sharisa, for
yeah.
joining us again today. And so I guess we'll turn it over to you guys now for the raffle.
Actually, Agnes did have a question, it looks like.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, she was asking if there's any more resources available. Yeah, so Dr. Navarro, you might know where to click more, but if we go, you might be able to link the trauma resource site where they can look at all the different, not podcasts.
Yeah, actually,
Right?
Sharisa, we forgot to mention about the iChill app. So that's a resource
Oh,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
let me open up.
yeah. So we will work on that while we finish everything up.
So,
Even,
yeah.
yeah. So Agnes, even if you wanted to look for an app, which I know we all have smartphones now, it's literally called iChill. And it has an English and a Spanish version, so that's really good to kind of expand it further. Yes, iChill. That's exactly it. And it'll be the first one. It'll probably say something along the lines of Trauma Resource Institute. Even if you type in Trauma Resource Institute on Google, they're the first one. And I think on their webpage, it literally has a tab where you can click for resources. Yep, that's what it looks like. And it's really helpful because on the iChill app, it kind of goes through what I did, like the fast version, where it talks about the tracking, resourcing, granting, and it also gives you the list of kind of the help down reset skills, so you don't have to think about it. You can just open up the app and be like, okay, what do I need to do right now? Do I just need a skill? Do I need to learn how to track or resource or ground and things like that? So yeah, please download it and share it with anyone you feel like, or not anyone you feel like, just everyone, because we all need it. I think it's a very helpful resource.
Yeah, the voice on it is Elaine Miller-Karras, like Sharisa said. She's the co-founder of Trauma Resource Institute and co-developer of the CRIM model.
And yeah, Elaine has a very calming and soothing voice. So I think you will all enjoy it. It automatically makes you feel like she's right there and everything will be okay for even for the 2 seconds that you're listening to her. So like I said, I mean, I'm a little biased, so and it is free.
Any other questions? Comments? Need help trying to find the app store? All right. So again, like thank you to Sharisa and Dr. Erneland for, you know, showing up today, giving us a presentation on holiday resiliency, as well as iChill. That's another app that's going to go on my phone. I have a lot. I still need to use them, but so we are coming to the end of our program, and we will actually get started on the raffle and the survey. So Neither really usually does this, but she has to go somewhere. She got to go do some things for a little bit. So, we just want you to know that maraming salamat for coming to our presentation, and we just hope that y'all can help us fill out our survey, so that way we know what we're doing. Ellen, do you want to talk more about the survey, so I can get started on the raffles?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to take this time to share my screen. And is it okay, Nico, if I can go ahead and do that? Alrighty.